Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to another episode of Coronavirus, a Global Pandemic. Tonight we'll be discussing the current situation with our panel of guests. We are live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, where you are at home and have a chance to ask questions or get involved in the discussion. As many of you know, on the 11th of March, the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus a global pandemic. Since then, cases have been rising rapidly. Today, France has reported 499 deaths within a day. This has been the highest number of deaths in France since the epidemic. And in the UK, as of today, there has been 1,789 recorded deaths after testing positive for coronavirus up to date. It's been just over a week since the Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson, who has announced stricter measures with all schools, gatherings, and numerous daily activities suspended. A number of us, we have been working from home and spending a lot of time indoors with our families, away from our normal day-to-day activities such as commute or going to work. For this, on today's episode, we have a number of panelists who are here to advise us and provide an insight into what people have been facing. On today's episode, we have Sheikh Abu Bilal from Apex Primary School, a school in East London, to give us an insight on how schools are dealing with the epidemic. We also have joining with us is Dr. Kamal Ibrahim, a trainee psychiatrist and a medical doctor, with whom we will be discussing the possible mental effects this pandemic can have. Along with that, we have a renowned nasheed artist from Canada, Saeed, where we'll be looking at the situation in Canada and how the general public and Muslims have taken action. And we also have someone who's been on the ground from a charity called Global Relief Trust, Atiqur Rahman, and to see how charities have reacted in this time of need. But today, for our first guest, we have an imam, an ustad, an imam from West London Islamic Cultural Centre in West London, and who's also a director at Yasin Youth Development Tours. And just before we start this discussion, would like to give you a reminder to all the viewers at home. They can call in to ask questions at any point or join the discussion at any time. And the number you'll find is just at the bottom of the screen. So firstly, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Ustad. Normally, Ustad, what we do, I normally see you, or normally before the studio, before the setup, we would shake hands and maybe give each other a hug. But obviously during this time, we're unable to do that, and we're obviously keeping our distance. How have you been?
Alhamdulillah, I've been very good. To tell you the truth, I've been better and feeling quite good since this has happened, because I found that there's more time for us to be alone and to reflect and think. And I found that there is more time to spend with family, because you're forced now to stay more at home. So I saw so many advantages, and some of the Salaf used to say that during times of ibtila, during times of trials and tribulations, the person should be more mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the person should fear to be close to anything that is displeasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So from a imani perspective, I feel like many people are very mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and for me personally, I've felt that this is a spiritual lifting experience so far, and more time to reflect, to review our personal affairs, and to rectify ourselves, and to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I've been good, alhamdulillah. Of course, it's very sad to follow the news, and we're hearing the death tolls are increasing all the time in different countries, and we pray for everyone that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it easy for everyone and their families, and also we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease in our tests. Allahumma ameen.
Ustad, how would you advise our viewers at home how to spend their time during this pandemic?
This is a very good question. I think that time right now is under our control more than before. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-Azim, he makes an oath by the time. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. And Allah here is swearing by the time and saying all mankind is in loss, because those who don't use their time wisely will be in loss, except those who believe and do righteous good actions and cooperate with the truth, and cooperate with each other with patience. So I think right now every person should produce for himself, spend half an hour to 1 hour to a few hours, and produce a schedule, an itinerary for themselves, and to put on a piece of paper all their main responsibilities that they have. So the first responsibilities we have is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of our ibadat. How can I improve my ibadat? So salah on time, perhaps fasting Monday and Thursday, praying my sunan prayers, doing my athkar in the morning. So when I wake up, I do my athkar in the morning. In the evening after Asr, do your athkar of the evening. We mentioned maybe having a plan with the Quran to read after each salah 5 pages. So every day you're doing one juz of the Quran, in total 25 minutes, half an hour. By the month you will finish reading the Quran. Reading a book, an Islamic book or a general beneficial book, and having more ibadah, more obedience, more worship. And then the second responsibility is your family. So what can I do with my family during this time? If you're not working from home, during your breaks, after work, have a plan with the family, have a program, especially if you have children, with your wife, have some lessons together, have some activities, have some programs. And of course, not to forget the leisure part and your health in regards to exercising or taking walks in the morning. But I think we should all have a schedule that is balanced and includes lots of ibadah, lots of beneficial matters in our lives. And again, like I said, time is in our hands now. We can control it more, we can manage it. So now is an opportunity for us to do all the things that we always wanted to do, but we made excuses now that we are at home. No.
Okay, I think we have a caller who wants to join into our discussion. Assalamu alaikum. Where are you calling from and what's your name?
My name's Sarah. I'm calling from Blackburn.
Assalamu alaikum.
So now it's not going to be a religious question per se, but I'm worried about the power supply. I mean, we've all lived in Pakistan, India, etc. I'm concerned about how I'm going to cook, because I have been to Pakistan. We have got a barbecue, but I don't know how to cook on wood. I'm thinking how we're going to feed the family.
Okay, Ustad, what do you think? Do you think we have a shortage of power supply?
I can't answer that question. I'm afraid I'm not sure. I don't know.
And in terms of Muslims worrying or fearing, or fearing for their risk, what would you advise the general Muslims in the UK?
Yes, of course, believers should be positive and optimistic. Even in difficult affairs, the Prophet ﷺ was positive and optimistic. For example, when he will visit a sick person, and that person could be suffering or could be in pain or hardship, but the first words he would say, "La ba's, shifa wa tuhur, inshallah." No, nothing to despair, nothing to worry about. Calming that person down, making that person feel good. Shifa wa tuhur. Allah is going to purify you. Allah is going to cure you. Wa tuhur, and Allah is also purifying you, transforming you, making you a better person, making you a muttaqi. These are words of optimism during times of difficulties and trials. So the mu'min, in terms of the risk, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that every person's risk, his provision from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is decreed. So it is something that is from the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's planned for that person. So the person should not over worry too much to the point where he panics. The same way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides for the birds and the animals, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made plans for each person's provision.
Jazakallah khair, Ustad. We've actually got our next guest, who is a known nasheed artist, our brother Saeed. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you? It's been quite a few months since I last saw you, and things were a lot different.
Alhamdulillah.
How's it been in Canada
Yeah, no,
so far?
a lot has changed, I guess, since we last met, and I guess all of us are kind of experiencing something, I guess, very new, I guess, around the world. So it's, I think a lot of people are scared. Some people, I guess, don't know how to react, I guess, to these times. So yeah, no, I agree. It's very different, different times.
So, what's the current situation in Canada?
So far in Canada, I think it's quite similar to what's happening in the UK. We do have some sort of like a lockdown going on. I know I heard in the UK they like they're limiting two people out, like I guess out and about. In Canada, I think it's about five, and all of the schools are closed off. Most of these stores that are non-essential are also closed off as well. So it's just like groceries and these type of things that are open, kind of like the essential services, and obviously hospitals and such. But yeah, like things are kind of like in Canada, they're starting to pick up a bit more. I know in the UK they had a lot of cases. In Canada so far, I think they have about 8,000 cases. And like right now, where I live is a city called Thunder Bay. As of now, we only have 3 cases, but I mean obviously expected to grow with the time. But yeah, everybody's kind of like everybody's staying indoors, and I think that's the best way to be safe from what we've been told.
So, how long has this been
Hmm.
going on for, and how long is it planned to go on for?
From what we've been hearing on the news in Canada, we're expecting like none of these I guess these restrictions to be taken off for at least 6 months. I know I've heard some places that they like if for any like vaccination, it would probably take about some said after all these trials and tests they would take about at least a year. So I don't know. I've heard different things, but it's kind of like it's whatever time we have. I guess we're just trying to make the best of it. And like I guess in every sort of I guess like they say like as Muslims we know in every sort of tribulation there's also ease in there as well. There's also opportunities in there as well. So like I guess in our household we're trying to I guess make use of those opportunities as well. I guess.
السلام عليكم
Yeah.
brother Saeed.
Assalamu alaikum.
السلام ورحمة الله
Sorry.
وبركاته. MashaAllah, it's nice to meet you in well, not in person but through Skype. I do like your nasheed. اللهم إني أسألك العافية. Is it that one? MashaAllah, tabarakallah. Allah
Oh
has
yeah,
blessed
in
you.
the back to you.
Yes, back to you. That's
Thank
the
you
one.
very much. Really
MashaAllah,
appreciate it.
tabarakallah. In fact,
Yeah, exactly.
we used your nasheed in one of our highlights video that we did for our Eid celebration. I'm not sure
Oh,
if
really?
I'm allowed to do that. I should have asked permission.
No, of course you guys are.
Jazakallah khair.
No, I'm gonna send in the.
Jazakallah khair. So in regards to like, would you say in Canada that one of the reasons why the death tolls or the people who have the coronavirus is much less than here in the UK is to do with the population of Canada, that Canada is so big and people live far away from each other. Unlike the UK, it's a small island and it's highly populated. Would that be a reason, do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that's probably one of the reasons. I've been to the UK obviously a lot during these past few years, and the UK is just very like packed together, and everybody's very close to each other. And of course, there's I think the UK has like a lot larger of a population compared to Canada. And I guess maybe another thing is that in Canada, I think because of the prime minister, like his wife got like got the COVID-19 virus earlier on. So I'm guessing I think one of the possibilities is the prime minister he probably started to take it a bit more seriously, and he handled it really well from like the beginning stages. Compared to some countries who I think they delayed it a bit. So I think that's one of the reasons as well. But yeah, as for the population, definitely like in Canada, everything's very spread out, and like other than places like Toronto or like places like maybe like Vancouver, where there's like a massive population and a lot of people bunched up together, similar to like London. Usually all the other cities and stuff are generally a bit more scattered around. Like just like the place where I am. It's like it's a town of like about 100,000 people, but it's kind of roughly it is quite spread out. There's some people living out in the country, which is about 15-20 minutes drive out. So everybody's quite scattered. And in Thunder Bay, we do have a massive elderly population. So that's I know that's one of the concerns that the health officials have over here at the hospitals, because of the I guess the high elderly population. So that's one thing that I know the hospitals are worried about. But yeah, aside from that, I think those are similar concerns that people in the UK have as well. But yeah, like everybody's kind of like just taking their precautions before leaving out. Whether it's for groceries, I know there's a lot of people who are like just ordering their groceries into their house, into their homes and stuff, and it seems like probably the most safest approach. And then like and I know like it's probably a good idea to even sanitize your groceries, because you don't know who's been touching those things as well. And it's just we don't know how long this will last. Inshallah, it doesn't last as long. And but it's like as long as it's here, you want to, I guess, take those precautions, inshallah. So
Has there been any changes in your kind of routine? So have you stopped performances and recording nasheeds, or how did that affect you personally?
For me personally, it's well, first, as soon as I started hearing about this virus, I had a lot of shows in the States, so I had to cancel pretty much all of those shows. And then I had one in for Germany and these a couple of these cities, and I guess in Europe as well. So I had to cancel all of those, which was I guess a bit unfortunate, but I guess it was meant to be just like that. Aside from that, like so like currently, obviously, I'm not doing any performances abroad, or even locally. It's just I'm just focusing on, I guess, like as a nasheed artist, for me, it's either I'm performing or I'm creating new content. So as of now, I guess what I'm doing is I'm just creating new content these days, just working on some tracks, some new nasheeds for people, I guess, to listen to. I know a lot of people have more time on their hands, so I'm just like, might as well um, give them some more content that they can maybe benefit from. As far and there's some other, I think there's, like I was mentioning about opportunities before. And I think for Muslims, for all of us Muslims in general, one of the things we do have to see in this sort of situation is the amount of opportunity we have and the amount of time we have now. Because a lot of the times, like for any of us, when we went like for me, for example, for me, one of my goals was always, I wanted to I know how to obviously read Arabic, but I wanted to understand Arabic as well. So when you open the Quran, you can actually understand what you're reading. So that's one of my, I guess, goals for these things. Me and my wife, we made a plan that we're going to start doing this. I guess it's like an online course, and we're going to be taking that course and try to kind of at least begin to whatever time we have. Since a lot of people, we always have excuses for whether it's a job or whether it's cooking or whether it's all of these things, and now everybody's just sitting at home, right? So it's like might as well make opportunities like that. And another thing, I guess, in our household, which we haven't done for maybe about since we were younger, is like for the first time in, I guess, this time of like crisis, I guess we all sat down after on the dinner table after we ate, and everybody we all I guess had like a small like halakha type thing, and we all like read a bit of the Quran together, and which we haven't done for like a long time, as a family. So like there's a lot of opportunities, and I think inshallah we should all like take we shouldn't take them for granted, because I guess we'll be asked for all of this time that we have available to us now. So
Oh, Sai, Jazakallah khair for that. Just before we move on, what was the nasheed you were talking about?
Yeah, it's called Back to You. Yeah.
Are you going to give us a little sneak preview?
Actually, I wanted to ask him the story behind it. How did he come up with the song? Was it personal to? Yeah, I wanted to ask you if I really like the lyrics. It was really effective, and I'm not a person who does listen to a lot of nasheeds. But what I loved about the nasheed is that it's like I'm returning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He blessed me with another chance. I'm doing tawbah. I'm going to be a better person. And I felt like it was a personal nasheed. So I wanted to ask you, before I hear it again, I would love to hear it again, what was the story behind it? How did the lyrics come and the words come?
I guess it all started from well, I guess first of all, I wrote it in about early 2018 or maybe 2017. And I guess I was listening to a lecture by, I think it was Imam Umar Suleiman. And in the lecture, he was talking about, like near the end of the lecture, he was mentioning about this dua that the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us. And he mentioned it was like one of the most comprehensive duas that the Prophet, peace be upon him, taught us. So I wanted to memorize that dua, so I just put it in my wall, on my wall in my room. Because whenever I want to memorize something, I just keep it like in front of me so I can constantly see it and memorize it. So one time, I guess I was just working on I was just trying to create a new track, and and then I just kind of looked up at that dua. I was wondering if like maybe if I could make it a sheet.
We're about to go for a break, so we'll catch up with you soon, inshallah. Okay. So viewers at home, remember you can call in at any time to jump in or join in with our discussion, inshallah. Obviously, our topic is coronavirus, a global pandemic. Feel free to talk about any pressing Islamic questions, or we've got some panelists coming up who will be talking about mental health, education, and obviously we have our local imam, and we've got someone from a charity who's actually on the ground helping out with the current situation, current climate in their local areas and in the nearby areas. So viewers, don't forget, feel free to call in at any time, inshallah, and we'll see you guys soon, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
The Prophet ﷺ says, each and every one of us is a shepherd, and each shepherd is responsible for his flock.
There's nothing more beautiful, more pleasing, more pleasure-inducing to a parent than to see their children being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
As parents, we are responsible for our children. We're responsible to upbring them to be righteous, practicing Muslims. We're responsible to make them positive elements of our community.
There's nothing more beautiful than for a parent to see their sons and their daughters being obedient to Allah and following in the footsteps of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With every great amana comes great responsibility.
In order to know how to do this, in order to gain knowledge of how to be successful in aligning our upbringing to the Quran and the Sunnah,
join us on this episode, on these segments of Life's Adornments. Myself, Yusuf Kroma, and Sheikh Asim Luqman al-Hakim, we will take you on a journey, on a lesson-filled enlightenment where we will discuss these crucial matters. We look forward to having you. Assalamu alaikum.
I spend my life running away from you. Now I have nowhere to turn except to you.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created man. And man has outer features as well as inner features. One of the most important of his inner features is his heart. So what is the heart? What is meant by this heart that is in our bodies? And what is the health of the heart? And what is the disease of the heart? There are many diseases of the heart, and there are many actions of the heart, things that make it healthy. So what are these diseases? What are these actions? Come and join us on Huda TV in this program of ours.
Wash the filth away. Don't leave me drowning here, alone and astray. Don't leave me drowning here.
These social media sites are the best way to contact us from anywhere around the world. Stay connected with Huda TV's latest news and programs through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Skype, and Instagram. It's fast and easy. Stay up to date with your favorite shows and scholars today. Huda TV, a light in every home.
The Prophet ﷺ says, each and every one of us is a shepherd, and each shepherd is responsible for his flock.
There's nothing more beautiful, more pleasing, more pleasure-inducing to a parent than to see their children being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
As parents, we are responsible for our children. We're responsible to upbring them to be righteous, practicing Muslims. We're responsible to make them positive elements of our community.
There's nothing more beautiful than for a parent to see their sons and their daughters being obedient to Allah and following in the footsteps of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. With every great amana comes great responsibility.
In order to know how to do this, in order to gain knowledge of how to be successful in aligning our upbringing to the Quran and the Sunnah,
join us on this episode, on these segments of Life's Adornments. Myself, Yusuf Kroma, and Sheikh Asim Luqman al-Hakim, we will take you on a journey, on a lesson-filled enlightenment where we will discuss these crucial matters. We look forward to having you. Assalamu alaikum.
These social media sites are the best way to contact us from anywhere around the world. Stay connected with Huda TV's latest news and programs through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Skype, and Instagram. It's fast and easy. Stay up to date with your favorite shows and scholars today. Huda TV, a light in every home.
To remain the premier English language Islamic channel in the world. And to do so, we need your input. Send us your thoughts, suggestions and feedback through email at feedback@hoda.tv. Hoda TV is committed to helping others, so why not help Hoda TV share the message of Islam worldwide? Take part in helping spread the authentic message of Islam based on the Quran and the Sunnah throughout the world by sponsoring Hoda TV. Don't miss this unique opportunity to gain the reward from Allah. Allahu Akbar. Allah.
بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير.
يا أقصى يا حلو المنظر، يا أقصى يا حلمي الأكبر، يا أقصى يا حلو المنظر، يا أقصى يا حلمي الأكبر. أنت القدس أنت الشمس وبك الأنس ولك الحب. قلبي يهفو عيني تغفو، قلبي يهفو عيني تغفو، روحي تصفو تدعو الرب. الله أكبر الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome back to our episode of Coronavirus, a Global Pandemic. So we are currently discussing the situation. We have today with our panelists, we have an Imam, our Ustad, Omar Hajjaj, and we've had Saeed, a renowned nasheed artist from Canada, telling us about the situation in Canada. And we're still expecting Abu Bilal, who is a deputy head teacher at a Apex Primary School, along with Dr. Kamal Ibrahim, a trainee psychiatrist, and Atiqur Rahman, who's on the ground doing a number of charity works around the UK. Let's just go back to Saeed. Saeed, apologies earlier on, we had to cut short because we were going for a break. You were telling us about the reason you produced the song Back to You.
Oh yeah. So I was just mentioning I got that dua from a lecture, and I just decided to put it in a song, and alhamdulillah, I guess since then, now whenever, for example, we go to the Night of Vocals tour every December, alhamdulillah, I'm grateful for the fact that there's so many, I guess, like little children and other people, and I guess even adults having memorized that dua now, and alhamdulillah, it's just very happy to see that.
I've firsthand seen one of your Night of Vocals performances, and I've seen how the children interact with you, especially how they come running towards the stage and everyone's singing the chorus with you. Inshallah, I think Ustad might come and join you one time.
Yeah, I'll join the next one. I wanted to go to the Night of Vocal. We had the Youth Umrah at the same time, but inshallah next December I'll be, if this pandemic is over, inshallah I will be with Brother Saeed and the others, inshallah.
Inshallah, definitely. Looking forward to see you there, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair, Saeed. It's been a pleasure having you on our show today.
Well, yakum. Thank you guys for having me. All right. Inshallah.
We'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Allah take care.
Ustad Omar, so Saeed, he's been over quite a few years now. He's been doing a lot of work with the youth, especially through his nasheeds.
Right.
You're the director of Yasin Youth Tours.
Yes.
Tell us about Yasin Youth Tours.
Right. It's a non-profit organization. It started 4 years ago when I was a student in Medina. The idea came after living in Medina and seeing the best parts of Medina and the best moments and highlights for me during my 6 years approximately in Medina. I wanted to do a 10-day program of it. So all the great scholars that had a good impact on me, I wanted the youth to meet them. Places where I felt an iman booster, like in the desert, with the campfire, with the camels, with the mountains around me, with hundreds of stars on top of me. I wanted the youth to experience that. And all the good moments, the fun, the joy, I wanted the youth to experience that. So the idea, it started with doing Umrah trips just for the youth without their parents. Take them abroad, they have a bit of freedom, and do a program with them. So it's not just come and perform Umrah and that's it. Every day we do different activities. So we'll take them horse riding, we'll take them quad biking in the desert, we'll have a campfire at night, we'll bring 2 sheep, cook Fiji curry for them. We'll have a private Spanish-style Andalusian villa with a swimming pool, sauna, and then they get to meet the scholars privately, those who teach in the Prophet's mosque. And we do different workshops, different discussions. In the end, it's the Umrah trip. And what happens, alhamdulillah, fortunately, many of them change spiritually. They change, they discover religion and they experience it. And the reason why we make it fun is to show them, look, you can practice Islam and you can enjoy your life at the same time. These are permissible, and Islam promotes happiness and joy, and we want you to be happy practicing Muslims. We don't want you to think, if I practice Islam, I'm going to be miserable, I have to be in a masjid and just memorize Quran all the time. So these were especially what I'll call semi-practicing youth. Muslim youth who come from Muslim families, but they never really experience Islam by themselves fully. So here they come to Medina, lots of down-to-earth young Medina students with them. They interact with them, they mentor them. And when they come back to the UK, there's been around 550 youth, alhamdulillah, so far. They make a commitment. They say, I saw Mecca, saw Medina, saw the Prophet's mosque. I felt Iman, and I felt happy about it. I want to continue. So then in the UK, we do some follow-up programs. We'll do lessons for them. We'll signpost them to different programs that we have, activities. We'll do some trips here, some camping trips. We have summer schools across London for many youth. And we have hundreds of youth here that we engage with on the ground after the Umrah trips.
Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah, I would like to introduce our next panelist. Is a medical doctor, Dr. Kamal Ibrahim, who's specializing in the field of mental illness. Currently, he's training in psychiatry in one of the mental hospitals within London. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Kamal.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, doing well.
Dr. Kamal, are you still working or you're still training as a psychiatrist? Let us know about this.
Currently, I'm working in the field of mental health, so I'm a trainee who is specializing in psychiatry at the moment, yes.
Okay. I've got a couple of questions for you, Dr. Kamal. Some, hopefully, inshallah, you can benefit us and the viewers at home. Since the situation of COVID-19 or coronavirus, what sort of mental strain has the virus been having on people, and why is that?
Predominantly, what we're seeing with the onset of the virus, especially with the spread of it outside of China and now becoming a global pandemic, is that across the world there's been quite a rise in anxiety and panic symptoms, especially. That's in addition to, people, if they had other mental illnesses in the past, like depression or psychosis, that those things may also get worse. But what we're finding alongside that with the general population, generally speaking, is that people are becoming very worried and anxious. And this is for a number of reasons. One of the main ones is the threat to people's lives. And I think, as humans, one of the biggest needs we have inside us is to protect oneself. And a lot of people feel directly threatened. In fact, the whole world now feels directly threatened. And we see this whereby we are worried for our own health, that we might get the virus ourselves, or that those who are our loved ones may experience that. So there is the threat of becoming unwell or losing lives, which is quite the biggest threat that humans experience. In addition to that, I think what we see for a lot of people is that they're experiencing a lot of hardship in addition to that. So they've got the threats to their homes, their jobs. There are a lot of people being laid off, a lot of businesses going under, especially in countries where there's a lot of poverty and they don't have as much of a security system or a welfare system. The threats to, if they're living day to day and they're not able to work, that's a big threat to their security and their future. And generally speaking, what we've found as well, which is leading to people becoming excessively worried and experiencing this sense of fear and panic, is that sense that they don't know what the future holds. A lot of people have had things like marriages, graduations cancelled, people have had school cancelled, people who are going to have exams have had that taken away from them, and people, I think, feel a sense of loss with that. And obviously it's not the case that they're losing their life or the life of a loved one, but in a sense they're also experiencing a sense of loss there, and the fact that we don't have a sense of normality. This is not something that we've experienced or lived with. And one of the last reasons, and this is amongst many reasons, I think, is the additional experience that people are having, that they have to be confined to their homes. SubhanAllah, this is the first time that we've probably experienced this sense of lack of liberty, whereby we are told to stay indoors and confined and not be able to go out, when naturally, as human beings, we wish to be free and outside. So there are many factors that are leading to people feeling this sense of stress, worry, distress, and actually, it's perfectly natural.
What sort of solutions would you suggest for our audience to cope with this anxiety or stress and this sense of panic?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would try to explain, what is it they're experiencing, and generally speaking, people are experiencing, racing thoughts, worried thoughts about the future, about their health, what the future holds for their children. They're also experiencing emotions, so they're experiencing panic, maybe dread, maybe that can also sort of shift into them becoming a lot more irritable with other people, not settled. With that, you can experience a sense of sadness. So you have lots of different thoughts, emotions. You can have physical feelings as well. So some people might feel tight-chested, find difficulty breathing, that they can't sleep. So there are many manifestations, and people may see that these are the things that they experience. But also what we see is behavioral change. So when people are anxious, you'll see that they're panic buying, for example. And generally speaking, when the anxiety takes hold of the mind, you find that the way the person thinks is not in the same rational way that they may have done when they are a lot calmer and a lot more settled. So what we're seeing is this is affecting people, increasing their levels of stress, increasing the levels of sleeplessness. A lot of people are losing their appetite, making people feel burnt out and worried and concerned. So that they find that maybe they can't concentrate on things like they used to, and maybe sort of trying to find some sort of solace in maybe negative behaviors as well, to try and remove that sense of that anxiety. So in terms of solutions, there are many solutions, many ways that we can try to regulate that. But like I said, there's a natural level of anxiety which is protective. It allows us to deal with day-to-day challenges and rise to those issues when they come up. However, what you find is when it can create a sense that a person can't function, that is when it borders into the realm of it becoming very a sort of dysfunctional and paralyzing anxiety. So there are many different solutions that I would suggest and want to talk through with yourselves. So I sort of split them up into sort of practical, physical things that we can do, psychological solutions that we can find, and also spiritual elements from our faith in particular. So the practical things that I would suggest for people is, especially when you're in a sense outside of your routine and you're confined at home, is to start to create a new routine. I think a lot of us for the last couple of weeks have tried to adjust to a new normal, but now we're sort of almost settling into what this means. But I think at this point, what I would recommend is really start to create a routine for yourself. When you wake up, getting dressed at home, getting up and sort of splitting your day up. And we see that even in our faith in Islam, that the prayer time itself has split the day and organized the day for us. And one of its wisdoms is that it addresses one of our needs as humans to have a sense of knowing what's coming next. And that gives us more certainty, and you'll find that reduces a lot of our anxiety. The other sort of triad of things that we always recommend in terms of managing mental health symptoms and general mental well-being are looking after your diet, your sleep, and your exercise. People can go, one of two ways with diet. So when they're very excessively anxious, they can sort of neglect themselves and not look after themselves, or they can go the opposite way, where they're comfort eating, especially now that a lot of people are at home. So you're next to your fridge, your cupboards. So you can get into sometimes a sort of habit of eating excessively in this situation. So just be careful and regulate that. Regulating your sleep is really important. Sleeping on time, waking up on time. You'll find that a lot of anxiety that people are experiencing gets worse at night, and that's even worse in people who are sort of sleeping later into the night. So exercise as well. definitely helps. I would suggest to people who are at home to look at different apps that are available on their phones, on the computers, YouTube, exercise routines that I would recommend everyone to get into some sort of fitness routine to keep themselves, their body stronger, and that definitely keeps the mind stronger. We've seen lots of research which shows even equivalent effect to antidepressants in mild depression with good exercise therapy. So sort of moving on to sort of psychological solutions that I would suggest would be, first of all, for people who are finding that they're dealing with a lot of difficult thoughts and anxiety, is to acknowledge that you're feeling that way. And like I said earlier, it is perfectly natural. A lot of people feel, am I going crazy? Am I abnormal if I'm feeling this way? And what I would say is that these are normal emotions. For some people who are maybe more sensitive, more anxious, this can be a bit more difficult. So acknowledge that you are feeling this. This really reduces a lot of that tension and stress when you can feel that, okay, I understand that this is what I'm going through. But then what you can try and do is look at actually what type of thoughts you're getting, because a lot of us are worried about so many different things, but not all of those things are things that are directly affecting us or directly in our line of control. So what I would suggest is to really think, okay, what can I do about this worry? Is this a worry that I can do anything about? If you can't do anything about it, then what you're going to have to start thinking about is, how can I let go of that worry? And if it is something I can do something about, can I write it down? Can I start looking at, okay, solutions I can come up with for that? So whether it's, to do with work, with how to manage your children, manage other things, just to talk through with other people or look through some solutions. And you'll find that a lot of that anxiety becomes a lot more manageable. Other psychological ways of managing this stress and anxiety, I would say, is just think about your arousal levels. A lot of people are very alert, very anxious, very on edge at this time, and we are all responsible for managing that. And when I describe or explain that, I would say that think about the things that keep stimulating us. So our phones are always going off, or watching news constantly through the day. If we're always keeping ourselves in a high level of arousal, that maintains a lot of anxiety. So if you think of the analogy of a car, for example, we've got different gears that you start off in gear 1, 2, and you go up to gear 5. But gear 5 is the highest gear. It gives you the greatest power, gives you this great speed. But you would burn out if you're always at that level, and so would your vehicle. So you have to think about trying to regulate that state and bringing yourself down to a more maintainable level or gear, should we say, in terms of the car analogy. So think about what are the things that are arousing you. So like, always listen to news, always being on your phone. Think about how to maybe watch news once a day, turn off some notifications, for example, that are setting you off. And think about the things you focus on. So are you always focusing on negative news stories? Unfortunately, with the global nature of this, there's very little positive news. So everyone is focusing on negative things. So just think about, how to manage what you're focusing on. Is it always negative? Can you look for some positive things? And can you also share that with other people? Lastly, but quite importantly, is the spiritual. As Muslims, we have been sort of guided towards the guidance of how to build a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how that strengthens us internally and strengthens our heart. And I think, the students of knowledge and the ulama who come on this program have given lots of different advice about the adhkar, so the acts of worship, the acts of prayer that we can do to strengthen our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I would add to all of that is that try and be more reflective in terms of your spirituality and your connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and think about actually what it is that is being said when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to us, for example, in the Quran, that He is the one who is in control of everything. and reflect on our own sense of power and lack of control, and the power and control that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has. Because when you do that, what you're doing, and you're recognizing your own smallness, but the greatness of the one who has created us. And that allows you to let go of a lot of the burdens that you put on yourself. A lot of people, if they feel that, that they're the ones that have to carry all the world's problems, and they have to always be in control, and there's, nothing greater than them, that can create a lot more sense of burden on the heart. But as Muslims, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has that focus of power, that control. But also we find meaning. So not just that we're grounded in terms of, Allah's power, His knowledge, His control, but also we ask the question, why does these things happen? Why is pain and suffering occurring around the world? And subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, teaches us through our deen that all of this has meaning, and that people who are patient through these ordeals, they are given the reward, and that it is for us to seek to find solutions to this pain and suffering. But when it does happen, and we don't understand it all the time, we understand that actually just being patient through tribulation like this does have meaning. In addition to that, we have a sense of acceptance, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us to accept difficult things that happen to us, because we might say, why are bad things happening to me or to us or those who are close to me? But what our faith teaches us is actually to reduce that level of frustration. We realize that actually what is meant for us was not going to miss us, and what is not will never occur in our lives. And what that helps us do is, when something difficult does happen, that we find a level of acceptance. And there are many different types of therapy in the therapy world, and one of them is acceptance therapy, because of how powerful and how strong that need is for us to accept what difficult things that happen to us. A lot of people who can't accept, we find it in many areas of our practice, that this has led to a lot of frustration, irritability, and difficulty managing. So I would say be very much more reflective in terms of your worship and your spirituality, and you'll sense a lot more ease come into your heart, and the anxiety that you are experiencing to lessen and be much more regulated.
Dr. Kamal, it's been insightful. Ustad Omar, would like to ask you, and Dr. Kamal as well, just before we go for a break, so just in a couple of minutes, inshallah, how would you advise the youth to keep positive? Because especially now schools are closed. Along with that, you can't really go to the park and gather in groups. The youth can't go out and play football in the park, for example, or can't even go to the shopping malls in their large group of friends. What advice would you give in the sense of this?
I would say it's always important to remember that we're all in this together. It's not just an individual, it's a global thing. And maybe it's a bad example, but if you get in trouble in school, you're worried, you're panicking, but when you see 10 of your good friends in the head teacher's office with you as well, you feel more relaxed. So similarly, it's not just an individual, it's all of us. And as scholars of sociology, they say, during times of calamity, there is more solidarity. People come together and people help each other. You see more rahmah, you see more mercy, compassion. Alhamdulillah, we've been seeing, and we've been involved as well with the youth, people coming out of their homes and helping their neighbors, helping the elderly people, helping people who are vulnerable, doing stuff like shopping, getting medicine from the pharmacy for people, delivering like food packs, doing amazing stuff even to the NHS staff. These efforts have been led by many Muslim charities and organizations, and we try to focus on bringing the youth because they got some free time now being away from school. Rather than being busy on the PlayStation, come out, feel that responsibility and help others. And what we're trying to say to them as well is be grateful for all the blessings that you had that you never gave shukr before to. You never gave thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So even me, I feel bad for not thanking Allah for the blessing of going to the masjid every day. So we don't have the opportunity to go to the masjid anymore. And that's one of the first things I will do when this is over, is just go to the masjid and maybe spend a whole day there. These are blessings we never thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for. Blessings of our health, blessings of visiting family, blessings of going to lessons, these gatherings, all of these things that we took for granted. We should identify these blessings and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it.
Dr. Kamal, Jazakallah khair for your time. May Allah reward you abundantly. Inshallah, we'll see you soon, inshallah. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Kamal.
Jazakallah khair, Dr. Kamal, mashallah. Jazakallah khair.
So, we still got a few more panelists coming up. We still have Abu Bilal, Deputy Head at Apex Primary School, who will be talking about education, how it's affected the schools, and possibly how you could keep your children busy at home. Along with Atikur Rahman, the Head of Development at Global Relief Trust, who will be currently doing on-the-ground work in the UK, delivering food packs or helping delivering food to the vulnerable and the NHS. We'll speak to him more about that, inshallah. We'll also we still have our Imam with us, who will be talking about how we can keep our youth busy later on, inshallah. So, callers, we would like to remind you, you can call us anytime, jump in to join our discussion, maybe provide us some insight, maybe we're missing something, maybe we can learn from you. Inshallah, the number is on the bottom of the screen, and we'll see you after the break, inshallah. Jazakallah khair.
The Prophet ﷺ says, each and every one of us is a shepherd, and each shepherd is responsible for his flock.
There's nothing more beautiful, more pleasing, more pleasure-inducing to a parent than to see their children being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
As parents, we are responsible for our children. We're responsible to upbring them to be righteous, practicing Muslims. We're responsible to make them positive elements of our community.
These social media sites are the best way to contact us from anywhere around the world. Stay connected with Huda TV's latest news and programs through Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Skype, and Instagram. It's fast and easy. Stay up to date with your favorite shows and scholars today. Huda TV, a light in every home.
I spend my life running away from you. Now I have nowhere to turn except to you.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created man. And man has outer features as well as inner features. One of the most important of his inner features is his heart. So what is the heart? What is meant by this heart that is in our bodies? And what is the health of the heart? And what is the disease of the heart? There are many diseases of the heart, and there are many actions of the heart, things that make it healthy. So what are these diseases? What are these actions? Come and join us on Huda TV in this program of ours.
Wash the filth away. Don't leave me drowning here, alone and astray. Don't leave me drowning here.
So how have you been, man?
Yeah, I'm good, Sheikh. How are you?
Very good to see you.
How are you?
How's your family?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
So how's the Muslim community in the UK as well?
Yeah, they're okay, but you know, some of the youth, they're facing issues. You know, there's a lot of problems in the Muslim community, you know, to do with love and marriage and a divorce.
Oh, come on. This is always like that.
Yeah, but I think a lot of these things could be avoided. You know, if they just study and learn about Islam, learn about what Islam has to say about all these things.
So what are you suggesting?
Well, I'm thinking maybe we can do a program
Okay.
where I ask you some questions. We can ask about the questions to do with love and marriage and divorce and go through all the rulings, go through all the advice.
I like the idea.
What do you think?
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Coronavirus, a global pandemic. Today, so far, we've had two guests, or three guests, in fact. Our first guest, who's still with us, alhamdulillah, is our Ustad and Imam from a local masjid, Imam Omar Hajjaj. We've had Saeed, a renowned nasheed artist, who has called us in all the way from Canada. And we've had Dr. Kamal Ibrahim, who's a trainee psychiatrist, speaking about how the virus has affected mental health. Now, I would like to introduce to you our next guest, our brother Atiqur Rahman, who is the head of development at Global Relief Trust. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Atiq.
Wa alaikum salam, how are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, can't complain, can't complain.
I've been following your social media, and mashallah, you've been very, very busy in terms of helping during this current crisis. How's it been?
Alhamdulillah, it's a strange feeling, to be honest, you know, to be doing this in the UK, you know, subhanAllah, and all the time in charity work. I never thought I'd be going around and seeing desperate people in the UK who wouldn't normally be in the situation they find themselves in currently.
That's true. So, in this time of need, especially because obviously we know GRT, Global Relief Trust, provides relief around the globe, and now you're doing a lot of work heavily locally. How's it been different compared to your travels abroad? And I believe you were traveling just before the virus hit, isn't it? You had to come back quite...
No, actually, the founder of the charity was in Burundi, and he ended up missing the flight as a result of the outbreak, and we ended up having to rearrange his flight schedule to get him back here in the UK. And he was there the one day. It was actually the day the lockdown happened, so it was really difficult getting staff back. We've got a member of staff in Turkey at the moment who was stuck, and we were, you know, subhanAllah, we had many plans to travel out to places like Yemen and Gaza and then Bangladesh, but unfortunately all those have been cancelled. In terms of, you know, we used to see being in refugee camps, we used to be in places where it's poverty-stricken, it's war-stricken or whatever it is, and subhanAllah, we now find ourselves in a situation where, you know, we're having to help our neighbours, we're having to go round to people's homes here in the UK who literally, for various reasons, some of them who are old age or disabled are not able to go to the shops. You know, we've been dealing with an old lady, for example. It took her, she said, minutes to walk to the local shop. And subhanAllah, by the time she got there, all the groceries had been taken, it all been sold. So she was literally had absolutely nothing. And she contacted us, and all she was asking for is literally fresh vegetable and fruits and milk and stuff like that. We've had desperate mothers get in contact with us because they need you know, Pampers, nappies, they need baby milk or, you know, wipes or whatever it is. And we up and down the city as well.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So you have been very, very busy. How, what's the situation abroad, especially in those areas that you're normally working in, or those camps you're normally working in? What's the situation with coronavirus there? Do you have any contacts there, or have you been up to date with what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean, alhamdulillah, today, this morning, I woke up at Fajr to find some media that's been received from Bangladesh. So we were doing distribution in regards to coronavirus. And I think people here in the UK, I think we've kind of forgotten that, you know, places like Yemen, places like Syria, places like Bangladesh and India and Lebanon and these kind of countries who literally, you know, I saw a video today of an old lady in Bangladesh, and she said the virus isn't going to kill me, the hunger is going to kill me, because the issue is the lack of food is already there. They are lack of all sorts of items. So this lockdown and these poorer countries is really a massive issue. We're talking about Burundi, for example, which is it's actually the hungriest nation in the world. And you're talking about Lebanon, where 1.5 million Syrian refugees are stuck in makeshift camps. You're talking about Gaza, which is a place that's literally been on lockdown for the past, decade and a half. So, subhanAllah, it's not this new lockdown is something they've experienced for a long time. But the bottom line is, right now they are in massive need of aid. So we shouldn't be forgetting them. I know there's a massive need here in the UK, but ultimately there's a greater need in these countries, far greater now that a lot of people are not giving their aid and donations to those poorer countries.
So brother Atiq, first of all, assalamu alaikum, nice to see you again. Last time I saw you was in Birmingham, and we had dinner together with quite a few brothers. It was a good time, and it's unfortunate we can't do stuff like that anymore, but inshallah soon. My question is, how are charities going to now, deliver aid and food and help people abroad with the restrictions of flights and other restrictions? What's the new strategy for charities?
I mean, look, in the last week, there was a report that charities here in the UK have seen a decrease of donations by about 40%. That's in the first week. And we're expecting this decrease to continue for all, whether you're a Muslim or non-Muslim charity. And I think the worry now for a lot of charities is one, I think, is survival in terms of running the charity, because there is cost to run a charity. But then the second thing is actually the survival of its projects. And that's the biggest scare for us right now. We have, for example, in Yemen, a malnutrition project that's providing nutritional support to 175 children who could potentially be dead had it not been for this clinic. And ultimately, if we don't receive the funds this Ramadan, we won't be able to run this project. So the plea to the public is greater than ever, is that, yes, times are hard. Yes, a lot of people have been laid off for work. But as we know, that wipes away calamity. And inshallah, if we have that tawakkul in Allah, that faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that, let's give something, even if it's £10 towards whichever charity is out there, that, they have got genuine projects, orphans. I mean, subhanAllah, we've already had probably several orphan sponsorships cancelled because of, and I think with a lot of people with fear of not being able to, of poverty in their own household. So yeah, there's going to be a massive need, a bigger need more than ever in those countries that our charities are operating in.
Jazakallah khair, Atiqur. We'll see you soon, inshallah. Jazakallah khair for your time and insight about the work you're doing. Jazakallah khair. Before we move on to our next guest, who's Abu Bilal, Ustad Umar, the youth, what advice would you give to them, or especially with yourself at the moment, because normally you do the Umrah tours every year, or quite a few, you do a number of events throughout the year. Have you been speaking to the youth whom you normally interact with? How are they finding it? How are they finding it? How are their parents finding it? Because obviously parents are also now working from home now. They've got the children at home probably full time. I'm guessing you've spoken to quite a few families. Yeah. How's it been?
So yeah, lots of our programs, outdoor programs, has been put on hold, of course. But we are in contact with the youth, and even my local masjid as well. The congregation is closed, but the message that we want to say to people is the community never closes. It's never closed, inshallah. So with the youth, actually, we're trying to get them involved. We're given some training, some safeguarding training, some support. We're getting them to take the responsibility to help the old people, to help the neighbors. So alhamdulillah, they've been in the forefront actually of delivering these packs to these houses and these homes. The idea was inspired by World War II actually. After the Second World War, many of the men died in the UK, and there were only women and children left. At that time, women didn't work, they weren't independent or self-sufficient. So in fact, society started depending on the youth. And this is where the idea of the Scout Association came as well, that they were training young people to have basic life skills, survival skills, team skills. And in fact, it was the youth who were running the country after the World War, they were the ones first aid trained, helping people who are sick, and helping women, helping old people. So I want to kind of revive that spirit here, that the power is in the youth. With the youth, they're sharp, they're smart, they have the energy, they have the time, they have so much capabilities. So under good supervision, we want the youth to rise now and to come out of their homes, of course, if they're healthy, of course, with the precautions that we with our doctors are giving us some guidelines. We want them to come out, take the responsibility, be proactive, and help the people in this country.
Jazakallah khair. Now, I think going on from the youth, we should move down towards the younger age. We have with us our Sheikh Abu Bilal, who's the deputy head at Apex Primary School, a primary school in London. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Abu Bilal.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How are you, and how are you during this time of lockdown?
Alhamdulillah, ala kulli hal. We are keeping up, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Sheikh, we wanted to ask you, what's now schools are obviously closed, and what's the reaction been from students and from parents, and how are they coping? How is the school coping?
Well, the school has closed its doors, but we are teaching. We have trying to provide service for the past 10 days online, and we've been preparing for that. We've been preparing the students, we've been preparing the teachers and the parents. There's a lot to take into account, and we have been seeing coming. So we've tried our best to get ready for it.
So how have you guys prepared for remote learning? You can imagine normally in a classroom setting, you've got a teacher standing in front of a number of children. Now you've got a child behind a screen who could be doing all sorts, and the teacher have no control.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a complete change of mindset, complete change of pedagogy. The way you teach in a classroom is different to the way you teach online. Alhamdulillah, we have been implementing some strategies for remote learning and flipped classroom and blended learning for quite a while at school now. We have the Google G Suite, the Google Classroom. We've been implementing that. So we just made sure that all the students, they have their logins, they know where to go. And then train the teachers as well, which has been quite a task as well to bring them up. And often it's the case that the kids know more about technology than a lot of us. So we had to keep everybody in the picture.
MashaAllah. And how have the parents been finding it with the remote learning? Because obviously every household has a limited number of resources. You may have 3 children who are doing online learning but 1 computer. These are a number of challenges that the kids or households are facing. How are you coming about this?
Absolutely. I mean, it would be a lie to say that we didn't have any hiccups. So there were certainly hiccups. There were certainly challenges we have to overcome. Technical challenges, as you said, sometimes parents only have like 1 gadget and 3 kids at the school.
Speaking about technical issues.
Sorry, I think we've faced some technical issues. We'll get back to Abu Bilal soon, inshallah. Ustad Omar, how do you think the youth should develop themselves from an academic perspective, especially remotely? Because remotely, you can imagine, and I've seen it a number of times with my own family, with children who are learning on screen, the teacher's talking on the screen, but they're fiddling around and whatnot. Oh, I think we've got our Ustad back, who will just continue. Are we back, Ustad? Yes?
Technical issues.
Yeah, so there were challenges, definitely there were challenges, and challenges from teachers, from students. I mean, a lot of students have taken it almost like a holiday, which that's one thing. And then also from the teachers never had to teach like that. So there was challenges to overcome. But that's the academic side. We really had to focus as well on the emotional side, the spiritual side, which is tremendously important, especially being a faith school, being an Islamic school. We have to take that in account. We had 2 cases, 2 children who lost their grandfather just this week due to this virus. So obviously when you have the kids in front of you, you can have a special session, you can talk to them directly. Now it's online. And that was a tremendous challenge. So I have to applaud the teachers at Apex Primary School. Definitely there were hiccups, definitely there were challenges, but we tried to keep up with the contact and to give the solace as well to the kids and keep them busy as much as we could.
Now the setting is a lot like homeschooling now, isn't it? What advice would you give to parents, especially with young children, all the way from the age of, I believe Apex takes children in from the age of 3, 4, all the way up to obviously the age of 11. 3, yeah. So what advice would you give to parents for especially very, very young children who are probably difficult to get them to sit down in one place?
Yeah, well, there was a whole range of expectations from parents. So you have parents who would expect live sessions every single day and a fully fledged program and a timetable. And then you have parents who would say that, you know, why are we even focusing on learning? We should be focusing almost completely on spirituality and preparing for Ramadan, etc., etc. And so we try to cope with it. We try to cater to all the different parents. Being a fee-paying school, we have to do that. Me personally, that is now away from Apex. I would say that at this particular point, maybe academics should take a little bit of a back step, especially with Ramadan coming up. I'm not saying completely, you know, disregard it or so. No, there must be a daily timetable, some tasks to do. Definitely that has to go on. But this is a tremendous opportunity now to get into the Quran, connect with the Quran, look deeper, try to memorize, look into some tafsir. I mean, there is so much available online at the moment. Everyone seems to do things. I know Iman Channel is doing as well. So this is a huge opportunity, and we've tried to open the channels of communication for parents to have this available to them. But just have some kind of timetable, but don't be too strict with the children, in the sense that this is a huge challenge, especially for younger children. Emotionally, they obviously know what's happening. So that's completely new to them, and they have to cope with it as well.
Sheikh Abu Bilal, what's your opinion from your knowledge and experience on homeschooling? Can this be a blessing in disguise, because homeschooling has proven to really kind of be an excellent way for children to excel academically? Well, at least it worked for many children. Is this a time now where parents should be more involved in their children's education, supervise their learning, think of creative ways to have interactive learning with their children at home? And the school has a part to play as well with facilitating and supervising homeschooling at home. What would you say about that?
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, homeschooling, it can be a tremendous success, and it can be equally a tremendous failure. It really depends on how it's implemented. I have seen both. I have seen parents who have implemented homeschooling in a brilliant way, and the kids have flourished. And I've seen the opposite as well. I've seen children who have been homeschooled, and at the end of it, they were lacking a lot of social skills, like massive social skills, because they never had it done correctly. So it can be both. But from an Islamic perspective, definitely, I mean, we need to know that education, and that includes all kinds of education, Islamic education first and foremost, but all other types of education, all of that, in essence, from an Islamic perspective, is on the shoulders of the parents. It is the responsibility of the parents to make sure that the education, and at the top of that, Islamic education, is granted to their children. Now, if they want to outsource some of that responsibility, give it to Islamic schools and madrasas, then obviously we try our best to help facilitate, to structure it the best we can. But this is an opportunity for parents to maybe look a little bit into the curriculums, look what's out there, and try to re-engage with that part.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned an important point about children and the social aspect. Now, obviously, in the UK, we've got this lockdown where you can't really take children, for example, to clubs like football or cricket or whatever sports they play. What advice would you give in terms of this? What can parents do with their children to keep them socially active?
There's various ways. I mean, we had to actually stop our students because we've opened this chat program through the G Suites, and there have been some inappropriate messages going back and forth. So we had to calm them down a bit. It seems that they have been socially engaged a bit too much in the wrong way. But
you didn't send them out of the classroom.
Yes, I mean parents. Yeah, parents. Kids are typical. I mean, for the first week they go, yeah, you have holidays and whatnot. But now they want to see each other again, and this is going to last. So it is advisable for parents to have some tasks, some spiritual tasks, some social tasks, and some academic tasks as well. How they want to engage with the children. I mean, the wellness aspect is important. PE. Those who are blessed to have a backyard, a back garden, that must be a norm every day. Get them out, fresh air. Skipping, and some of our students have been following this, I don't know what's his name, Joe or whatever, on YouTube with the PE sessions. Point being is that we need to engage them from every aspect, spiritually, academically, but also physically. In every aspect, they need to be, if they're just going to sit for the next 3 months at home and being bored, that can have a tremendous impact on them. And that is something that we fear, not just the academic side, but especially when it comes to the spirituality, to the social aspects, etc.
For the viewers at home, what's a typical day at Apex Online School?
There's a bit of a stretch to call it an online school. We are trying to improve our services. There have been some parents who have not been happy as well, and some have been very happy. Again, there's a huge difference of expectations, I guess. But we generally have 3 subjects at our school only. One is Tazkiyah, which focuses on the spiritual aspect, and then we have a Glocal, which is a global local. Where we focus about English and geography, history, and then we have the STEM subjects, the science and the maths and the technical aspects of it. And we try to sort of link that together through a common topic, a common theme, a thematic-based approach to education. Now, that is brilliant in a school setting. It's a bit more challenging online. And teachers have to communicate. I know some teachers have been up until 1 o'clock marking their work. So again, a lot of challenges, but we're trying to connect it all together as much as we can, inshallah, through a thematic approach, and trying to keep that up online as well.
Sheikh Abu Bilal, we've got just a couple of minutes left till the end of the show. Just in a minute, what advice could you give, some final words before we part, inshallah, to the parents at home?
To the parents at home, I would say take this issue or this crisis as a blessing. I know there has been challenges, and a lot of our own teachers have been experiencing some signs, and they haven't been feeling well. But all in all, as Muslims, we say قدر الله ما شاء فعل, and we accept that there is khair ultimately, even if we can't see it at the moment right now. Throughout the world, I mean, just the fact that we realize that how much we can come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how much we can do that together with our families now, more so maybe than before, that is a blessing in disguise. Also, the fact that we realize how a small creation of Allah, something that you can't see with your own eye, has brought the biggest and the strongest nations to a virtual stillstand. and how Allah is truly the all-powerful. I mean, there are lessons of aqidah, there are lessons of iman, there are lessons of fiqh, there are lessons of adab. There are so many lessons in there. Sit down with your children, read the ahadith, read the ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have a discussion. You don't need to be a mufti, you don't need to be a scholar, you just need to do some tadabbur and some tadabbur with your children. Take Riyadh al-Salihin, sit down and read the ahadith about tazkiyah. This is a great opportunity if we take it as an opportunity. And I hope, inshallah, that we can learn, and Allah gives us tawfiq, inshallah, and that He helps us to overcome this challenge and this waba, inshallah. And may Allah subhanahu make us strong at the end of it.
Ameen, ameen. Jazakallah khair for your time today, Sheikh Abu Bilal. We hope to see you soon, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.
Allah barakik.
Ustad Umar, what advice would you give us very quickly, inshallah, to our elderly and especially to our youth?
My advice is that we all return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all try to connect with Allah, become closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all make istighfar. It could be due to our sins that we are in this situation. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the only one who is capable of removing this. So we need to return back to Him, put our trust in Him, ask Him for forgiveness, and ask also others for forgiveness. Anyone that you've wronged, you've harmed, tell them how fragile life is and how this world is not worth having issues and disputes. And in the end, we are all going to die. The world is going to end one day. So we are created to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This world is only a short place to collect good deeds and to worship Allah and ask for forgiveness. So let us hasten to do that, all of us.
Jazakallah khair. It has been a very, very beneficial program for myself, and I hope it's been a very beneficial program for yourself. Remember, the coronavirus, a global pandemic, our show is live every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday at 8:30 p.m. in the British summertime. Inshallah, we'll see you next Thursday at the same time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.